Take a look at your fingers. Turn them over. Take a look at your fingerprints. These fingerprints uniquely identify you. You are born with them and you will die with them. They are immutable. And maybe we need to consider immutable infrastructure for our servers. Well, first things first, I think we need to understand the term immutable. Immutable just means it's never going to change. So, immutable infrastructure is an approach where servers or infrastructure components are never modified after they are deployed. Instead of updating or patching a running instance, new instances are built from a common image and deployed to replace the old one. This ensures consistency and reliability in your infrastructure. Before Widgets & Co. were using immutable infrastructure, Naveen was working on deploying updates to the system. Unfortunately, one update didn't work, and it wasn't long before the phone was ringing and he couldn't get any time to himself, for the phone was ringing consistently. Wasn't long before his manager was on the phone to him. His manager was able to get through, but he wasn't really too complimentary about Naveen's work. Now, of course, the argument is that as product updates and feature updates are available, as well as, of course, the more important security updates, they do need to be deployed. However, if we use golden images for virtual machines, or if we start using a container infrastructure, we can update the underlying image or container and deploy them afresh. We can, of course, then test the new image and container before deploying it, but this way we're not going to interrupt anything in production, but can still get the patches and fixes out very quickly. You're going to see in the demonstration that we are using Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm is a cluster manager that can be used to manage replicas of containers. We'll be running 2 replicas of an Nginx web server, so we have a little bit of fault tolerance if we need to bring one down. We'll be running an earlier version of Nginx, but there's an important announcement where we must immediately upgrade to 1.27. We'll be able to see how we can do this without disrupting the website at all. Now we're going to take a look at the magic now by moving out to my Linux command line, and I can go through and check the Docker version. This is the full Docker Community Edition, so it's been installed from the Docker repositories. Still free. When I look at Docker info, we'll get a lot more information. What I'm really interested here is if I scroll back up a little bit, I should be able to see the Swarm information, and I can see that Swarm is listed as inactive. I can also go through and check other information version here, such as the number of containers, the number of images that I have, but I'm not so interested in that for the moment. We're going to go through and create ourselves a cluster swarm, so we can use this by setting up Docker Swarm init. We'll be running it on a single node, but I can add additional nodes or managers into the cluster. But for the demonstration, we'll keep it simple and we'll run 2 replicas of our website on the one node. Having initialized the Docker Swarm cluster, we can go back in and run Docker info, but this time for ease, I'm going to grep for swarm with an uppercase S, and I can see now that the swarm cluster is now active. Within the cluster, we run services, so I can use the Docker service command to create a new service representing my Nginx website. So as I run through Docker service create, I can set up a name for my service, and we'll just call it Nginx-service. That's as far as I can think for the moment. And we can specify that we need 2 replicas. Now, ideally, these would be on different worker nodes, but even on our single system, we'll be able to show that we can keep our website up and running during the update. And we're going to map port 8080 on our host through to port 80 in the container. And we're going to use the Nginx image with the tag of 1.26.1. I'm deliberately using an older version so we can look at upgrading it to the latest version. Now we can see then that we are preparing both of our nodes. We're running both of our nodes now, and then it just waits to verify that they have converged properly. So our system is up and running, and we can check our website by using curl localhost 8080, and of course we can see the standard Nginx web page. But this is very good. We have our cluster up and running, and as I say, even running on a single node, it still allows us to keep the website running whilst we run an update. When I do my service ls, I can see then that we've got two replicas using the Nginx 1.26.1 image. I can also use then the Docker service PS and Nginx service, and then I get a little bit more information, and I can see that both nodes have been running for 47 seconds. So there's been no inconsistency where one node has gone down. Our security team has just informed us that we must be running the very latest version of Nginx, and it must be done immediately. However, we also must have 100% uptime on our site. So I can run the Docker service update, -- image, Nginx. The latest version is 1.27.0. I've double checked this with our security team. This is the version they want. And we can then do a -- update and parallelism. How many do we want to update at a time? Now, we only have two, so I'm going to specify that we can update one replica at a time. So our website is always going to be available. And we can then go through and do a -- update, delay, and we'll set this to 10 seconds. So we'll wait 10 seconds after the first container is updated before we update the other container. So as we then go through for our Nginx service, we can see that we're working on the first container. That's up and running. We'll be waiting 10 seconds now, and after 10 seconds, and you can time this if you want, we'll then start working on our second container. And there we go, we're now working on our second container. That is now up and running. We're checking that the service is stable, and we've done the update, and there's been no disruption to our web service. We can see when we look at their current state, the first listed container has been running for 10 seconds. The bottom container has been running for 24 seconds. So we can see that we did have that 10-second delay. When I go through and check my website is still available, and it has always been available. Now, of course, after a little stressful start to the day, Naveen is back to his happy self. And what he has learned is that you don't make changes to your infrastructure. Your infrastructure is immutable, just like your fingerprints. He was able to update his servers one at a time using Docker Swarm. To create the Swarm cluster, we use Swarm init. We only needed the one system because we just needed to provide the fault tolerance to keep at least one website up and running. And then we can use the Docker service update where we need to change the image of a service, allowing us to update to the latest version of Nginx without having to bring the website down.
All that is left to say is thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then you are probably sadder than I first thought. For more of this drivel, please subscribe, like and comment to @TheUrbanPenguin.